An Edo State former rep member was interviewed on Arise. He was drilled rather on the costs of the House of Reps and the Senate. Now he was asked a series of questions, and then this is what he had to say.
Now being joined by Honorable Sergius Ogun, is a member of the Labour and one-time representative of Esan North East and Esan South East constituency of Edo State in the House of Representatives. He will also offer his thoughts on preparations ahead of the September 21 governorship election in Edo State. Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us on the morning show this morning. I'd like to start off with...
Thank you, Audrey. Good morning.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with former President Olusegun Obasanjo's comments when he criticized National Assembly members for allocating huge sums of salary to themselves. You were a former member of the House of Representatives. I'm sure that you have heard the debacle and accusations of deceit meted on the members of the House of Representatives after they failed to meet up with, the promise of slashing their salaries by 50% to help mitigate economic hardship. Well, spokesman for the House, Rotimi Akin, had blamed bureaucracy for the delayed implementation. Many of us would like to understand how bureaucracy should come into play at this very troubling time.
Well, the most talked about salary, like you heard the current speaker, Honorable Abbas, saying salary is about 600,000 naira. Is not what we should be talking about in the National Assembly. I think Sheikh Husani mentioned this, Senator Sheikh Husani. The salary is fixed. Is the running cost, I'm sure the former president was referring to. Why do we have the running cost? The way the country is today. You are expected to go to have a constituency office. You're supposed to maintain that constituency office. A trip from anywhere in Nigeria to your constituency today, the minimum you require will be 1.5 million just to visit your constituency. So what he's talking about is the running cost, which I think is part of the budget of the National Assembly that is fixed. That is fixed for members. That's the one he's talking about. But the salary is fixed. Salary is known. But the running cost is the one that the National Assembly leadership tends to pay members. That's the much talked about big money, big salaries. But it's not salary. Because you retire the running cost at the end of every month. If it's a salary, you don't retire your salary. Salary is a wage that you earn. But talking about bureaucracy to remit the 50%, yeah, I can understand that. You know how it is now. Those that work in the civil service, things can be slow. But if they have made their commitment, I'm sure they would commit to it.
All right, Honorable Go, thanks for setting the tone for this conversation. But I'd like to pick up from where Oji, my colleague, stopped. And that is the area where you said that the salary of the National Assembly, I'm sure in particular, the House of Reps, is fixed, and that what former President Obasanjo was talking about is about running cost. But I'm sure that you are aware that in 2021 there was a court judgment by Federal High Court, I believe in Abuja, where a barrister Monday Ubani and a couple of civil society organizations, went to court to challenge the practice in the National Assembly that you have just referred to, whereby the leadership of the Assembly fixes and determines what each lawmaker gets. And the verdict of the court is that they have no right whatsoever, and that the National Assembly Service Commission has no right to even determine the allowances or running costs and things like that. Don't you think that what we're experiencing, what you experienced while you were there, what your colleagues who are there at this time are doing, is against the law, and that's at the heart, one, of what President Obasanjo spoke against, and it's at the heart, part of what the demands of those who went out for 10 days to protest against hardship and hunger in Nigeria, were complaining about. Do you think that it is right, moral, and proper for the National Assembly to carry on, even when there's a court judgment against it?
I'm not aware of that court judgment. 2021, I was still in the House. Maybe I don't think it's with respect to running cost. Running cost is just like interest that public servants get. That's why you have to retire it. So I think at times we miss it when we give attention to such things. Now, we have talked about the National Assembly shaking down the MDS, the Ministries Department and agencies. If they were getting enough money, why are they harassing the MDS? So, and then I heard Oji talking about constituency project a while ago. The truth is, when you put something in the budget, because of the kind of where we are from, the country we are in or the continent, if you go to Abuja and all you do is just bills and motions, and you don't bring anything back to your constituency, you can be sure that you will not be re-elected. Or your people will not feel your impact.
But that's your job. Your job is to make laws. Honorable, that's your job. And there's
Yes,
no legal basis for the constituency project that you are saying. It's like saying, I'm going to Abuja just to go and take money to show to my people. That's the job of the local government. It's the job of the state governors. It's the job of the federal government to provide other ancillary services, not the job of the lawmaker. Yours will be to ensure that those things that others are bringing, in my opinion, sir, and as it is done in other places, to ensure that such things are done for your constituency, but not to get the money to go and execute them.
I was trying to lay a foundation.
All right, go on, please. Go on.
I was trying to lay a foundation. I think it's the society that we're in that's what you're trying to make. In my time in the National Assembly, I had over 90-something bills in just 8 years. So I wasn't one of those that went there chasing contracts and all that. No contract. I had over 40-something billion worth of projects in my constituency. Not a dime got into my pocket. I can swear on anything. So the point that I'm making, I'm just saying, in the kind of country that we are in, and if we must correct this, it takes everybody, including yourselves in the media, to say, look, a National Assembly member or a National Assembly, somebody that is vying for an office, like that of House of Rep or Senate, and it's coming to tell you that I will do roads, I will bring water, I will build schools, is not his responsibility. It's the responsibility of the executive, the president and his executive, and his ministers, the governor and his commissioners, and the local government chairman and those that serve with him. It's their responsibility, not a legislator. We don't say that, we don't do that. So people campaign about bringing these things to the community when they are elected. So the first thing they do when they get there, they are trying everything they can to begin to do all that. But that's not even the point today. I think we are deviating. The point is again, the society we are in. You don't go home as a National Assembly member and say, oh, well, my people, I came to greet you. I have a bill that I'm going to present on Tuesday when I go back to the house. So pray for me that bill goes through. And you don't put money down. You don't feed people. People are coming to say they can't pay my children's school fees. People are coming to say that their parents or their children are in hospital. You don't put money down. And be rest assured that either you will even be recalled, which is not something that is a common practice in this part of the world, or something else. You can't campaign for anybody. You can't even campaign for yourself. So we have to go back. If the executive were meeting their responsibility to the people, or responsibilities to the people, none of this would have been happening. It would have meant that the National Assembly members or House of Assembly members would concentrate on their core mandate of making laws for the people. But because there's failure in the system, especially the local government system, people now come to the National Assembly members. When I was in the House, my colleagues used to say, if you take away the National Assembly, this democracy will collapse. Because with the so-called running costs, the day it hits your account, you are getting calls from everywhere. We used to say that there is a monitoring spirit following that money. The money hits your account, everybody's calling for rent, talking about my roof is blown, I need to fix my roof. And you must attend to these things. So I go back again to say, if the governors, if the local government chairmen, we are attending to these things, primary health care, education, because even the UBE Act says clearly, primary education is free, secondary is free, according to JS3. But because the public schools are not in shape, many people are sending their children to private schools. And some of them come to you to support them. So what do you do as an elected person? Talking about from this client. If you refer to other clients, even in the US anyway, I know they get some, what's called Portberry, as like a constituency project, money you get to work in your constituency. So, but my point is, let's give attention to that running cost. Maybe it's not needed, but now that we have the local government autonomy, if the local government chairman will work and we can task them to work, we can hold their feet to fire to work, most of the pressure on the legislators, be it in the House of Assembly or the National Assembly, will come down. And they will begin to address the need for National Assembly members to live on their salary, which is basically about 1 million naira or so.
Honorable Oga, so you said that we should pay attention to the running costs. You were a member of the House of Reps from 2019 to 2023. What was your running cost from 1 month to another?
Well, I not vote to be.
No, what was your running cost from one to another?
Said for this.
You're not going to be.
Yeah. I will say, if you know who I am, you know that I don't put water in my mouth when I'm talking.
Okay.
Someone has said this before. The former leader, I don't know what to call his name, I had mentioned this before. Shehu Sani has said it. So if I'm saying it today, I will not be the first to say it. It's about 8.5 million. Okay, no, about it. It's 8.5 million monthly.
Okay,
that was the running cost. Whether it's been increased now, I don't know. I heard there's talk of increasing it.
Okay. And this running cost, do they include allowances such as fuel allowance, newspaper allowance, medical allowance, rent allowance? Or is this allowances different from the running costs?
There's no, all that is built into the running cost, really. Newspaper allowance, international journals, international travels, and all. It's built into the running cost.
Okay.
So if you have to entertain people in your office and your constituency office, it's from the running cost.
Okay.
You're expected to go to your constituency, it's from the running cost,
Okay, but if you're expected to go to
And
your
even
constituency...
maintenance of the appliances in your office.
Okay. Now, but I want to ask, with that, so in addition to this running cost and the salary, there's also international travel allowance, correct?
No, nothing like that.
There's no international travel allowance. So if you're going to the international parliamentary groups or organizations, who do you pay out of pocket for that?
No, okay, see, that's not an allowance. If you are nominated to go or you're a member of the committee,
Okay.
the house will fund it. So it's not an allowance.
It's not
You
an-
buy your ticket and then you get your ESTA code.
Okay. So ESTA code,
It's not an allowance.
allowances,
It's a money-
salaries.
if somebody,
These are different monies that are available to our legislators.
don't quote me. Don't quote me.
I'm not quoting you, sir. I'm asking
if
for
Arise
clarity.
sends you to, okay, hold on. Okay, yeah, I'll clarify that. If Arise TV sends you to as the man in Paris now, Rotimi, is it Rotimi or
Aaron
Jola?
Akerjola, yes.
I'm sure Arise bought Aaron, yeah, I'm sure Arise TV bought his flight ticket and they will pay for his accommodation and he will have money for him to move around while he's there.
Definitely.
So that's what the National Assembly does.
Okay.
If you are going for parliamentary assignment or even training outside the country, they buy your ticket and then you get an ESTA code, which is basically for your accommodation and for your upkeep while you are there.
And this
But it's not an
ESTA code is set by the National Assembly. So they determine the cost, they determine the amount, and then they pay themselves, give or take.
I
I was
take
just-
you back to Arise Television again.
Okay. No, I was just trying to
if
clarify.
if
Yeah.
you're-
I'm trying to go back to what President
Yeah.
Obasanjo said
Who's
about
gonna
the
fix it?
morality or the illegality in terms of the National Assembly determining their own salaries, their own allowances, their own travel allowances, travel costs, accommodation. I was just clarifying that these costs are determined by the National Assembly themselves and paid to them themselves. Now, I was just trying to clarify that, going back to what President Obasanjo said. I understand that you're saying that members of the National Assembly are a product of our environment or a product of our society, and that people expect their legislators to do more than just legislating. I understand that. But going back to what President Obasanjo said, I'm trying to clarify. If National Assembly members set ESTA code, set costs, set the allowances, and also set the salary, these different amounts of monies that are available to them, it's set by the National Assembly, correct?
No, that's not correct. They don't set the salary. I think the salary is set by, is it Ramfac as a salary? But the one I know the National Assembly fix is the running cost. Even the ESTA code, there is a certain amount of money the cadre of a House of Rep member or a senator should earn. So when agencies sponsor National Assembly members for programs overseas, that ESTA code is fixed. So I think that's a civil servant might be able to explain this better. But it's fixed. I think that's fixed by the government, the ESTA code, and of course, if you're buying flight ticket to America or to the UK or to Dubai, National Assembly will not determine that. You are flying business class, and it's at the market price that you buy the flight ticket.
Business class?
You were going to say something. One more.
I just said, so you'll be flying business class?
I find that fascinating.
All right, and that's where I'm coming in.
A civil servant.
Well, all right.
A civil servant gets into the civil service with a skill set certificate, and he rises to become an assistant director or something like that, or even below that. And he's traveling or she's traveling overseas and is flying business class. And a House of Rep member or a senator that has been everywhere in life. Before I went to the National Assembly, I was the CEO of an oil service company. So if I'm going to go on the business for the National Assembly, I should fly economy. Come on.
Well, like Adeswa has said, we've been talking about tough times and reducing the cost. I mean, your running cost, like you've said, is 8 million naira. 8 million naira. When the members of the House of Representatives said that they were going to slash their salary, I was one of the people that commended them because they said, they were going to slash it by 50%. Their salary, as you know, is 600,000 naira. And they're going to slash it for 6 months? And the total will be about 108 million by the time that all of the members slash their salaries. So people were saying it's a drop in the ocean compared to this amount of money that you have just claimed that is your allowance. I mean, what would you say to people that have criticized this amount of money that they said that they're going to slash? And just being a lawmaker and flouting the law, saying that this bureaucracy is the reason why they did not slash their salary in July. They received 100% of their salary.
Okay, Oji, let me clarify a bit. That salary, what actually gets to you at the end of the month depends on the deduction. It's about 300,000 naira at times. Other times, 300. It's when you're about finishing the session that the money comes to about 600. Why is it like that? You get a car loan after your inauguration and you have finished your clearance. You get a car loan, you get furniture allowance, you get additional money for your rent. That money is deducted from your salary every month. And I think the salary is about 1 million. 1 million plus, thereabouts. So by the time they take out all these deductions monthly, what comes to you is about 300, 400. So when you're finishing the term, towards the end of the term, maybe the last 6 months or 1 year to the end of the term, to your tenure that you begin to get about 600, 700. So that's for the salary. And like I said, when I was there, the running cost was 8.5 million, not 8 million, so get me right. And like I said again, it's
okay, an
running
additional
cost.
500,000 naira, no problem. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So it's running, like I said, it's running costs. It is running cost. So if you want to do this, compare this with what the civil servants get. Check what the interest of a minister. Because if you want to have this conversation, let it be holistic.
Yes, so
What's the
that's
salary
why
of a
I've
minister?
asked you,
About 1
can you
million.
help us break down your running costs so we can find ways to, break it down and, tighten the budget there? That's really the question here.
Okay. The running cost covers a whole lot, like I also just mentioned to you now. Members are expected to travel to their constituencies. And I also mentioned the responsibilities of National Assembly members when they go to their constituencies. So if we can task the executive to do more, maybe there will be less burden on the National Assembly members. Maybe we should have that conversation. So we shouldn't have it in isolation. That National Assembly members are getting running costs. What are they doing with it? If you even have to travel to your constituency, the minimum, when I was in the house, before the Naira even collapsed now, the minimum I go home with, minimum is 1.5 million. And I don't come back with anything. And there are people that do that more than at least 4 times in a month. There are other times, even if you go twice in a month, while you're in Abuja, your phone is ringing non-stop. So let's get the executive to take care. To meet the mandate for which they were elected. Which is, again, I go back to having a functional primary healthcare center in every political ward. The public schools should work. When they take care of some of these things, there will be less burden on the National Assembly members. I'm not there today, and I don't plan to go back, so I will not be speaking for them. But this is the fact. I have been there, and I saw, I went through it. When I left the National Assembly, I had 2 accounts. When I was filling my Code of Conduct Bureau form, one of the accounts I had 45,000 naira. The second I had 45,000 naira. It was 6 months after I left that my severance scheme was about 3.something million naira. But here I am supposed to have a Thanksgiving to thank my constituent for sending me to the house. That budget cannot be anything less than 10 million. So where's that money supposed to come from? Yet, and I was somebody that was not after public funds. I still have to go back to my pockets. So I left the National Assembly poorer than I went there. So let's address the issues. It's not so much of what are they earning as salary or what's their running cost. There's a root cause why they get a running cost.
All right.
It did start from 8 or 9 assemblies. So even from the days of Obasanjo.
All right. So you left poorer. Now, did you return the vehicle that was given to you?
Well, I told you that I was the CEO of an oil service company before I went to the National Assembly. And in that company, we get cars every 4 years. And maybe even the banks and the blue chip companies, they get cars every 4 years, whether the car is old or new. So if I was given a car to serve my constituents, and we had a sedan, not a Jeep. So if I was given a Corolla, or my car was actually a Camry, you think a Camry will survive Abuja to Edo, my state where I'm from, if you drive that car for 4 years? So what am I supposed to return? But the severance, in your severance, really, all those things are deducted. They're deducted. I think there's a scrap value for the car and other items that you are giving for your office, computer, laptops, and all that. So by the time they talk about the salvage value, whatever is left is what is paid to you.
Now, in his bid for defense, he is now saying that the allowances they get, are part of overhead costs. To whose expense are these overhead being done? Because no one is feeling the impact, but rather they are the ones feeling the impact of the overhead he's talking about. Now he keeps talking about overhead costs. Why not cut the cost of your operations? Probably this is just a defense because it is not a yardstick to say that operation cost, cut into allowance and all of that. If there is supposed to be any overhead cost, it's supposed to be borne by the National Assembly or the House of Rep to incur those costs. Not claiming that allowances being given to you are part of the cost you use in running your business. The excuses he's giving is very, very, let me not use any harsh word, but it's a silly excuse, how they spend money, how people call them. That is not your duty. How they should, their constituency, if all these lawmakers, all their constituency allowance are being utilized properly, I don't think anywhere will be undeveloped as at this moment. You know, all they just use is excuse, you know, to divert questions, to avoid suspicions, and to avoid the people keep speaking out. You know, they just look for something to justify their actions. Because it is of a truth that every lawmaker's duty is to make laws and to enforce those laws, and to probe these agencies for performance. But how do you probe a House of Rep member and a National Assembly member for his constituency allowance not being utilized? Who probes them? So they keep giving silly justifications of their actions, of why they keep earning this humongous amount of money, and keep justifying that other ministers are doing this, they are entitled to this. Changes begins with you guys, because you are the ones that were elected into office to make laws. So if you make laws and obey those laws, I don't think anyone will be able to break those laws, and there won't be any justification of whatever you are doing. So because the local government has been rendered, you know, inefficient, that is why you see they keep saying, oh, they have to do things for their constituency and all of that. You know, all funds is supposed to be directed to the local government, and this local government in turn will utilize this money for the various constituencies in their local government. So I don't see any reason why, you know, constituency project allowance will be given to this House of Rep members, to the National Assembly, because that is not their duty. Their duty is to represent the people and make laws that will be beneficial to the society. So if they make good laws and the enforcement agencies enforce these laws, there won't be any problem. But rather, they keep pushing themselves to having contracts, you know, to get allowance for project that will not be done, and then they pocket this money and they keep saying, you know, do you know how many people that called me, how many school fees I am paying, how many this, how many that, as a justification for their wastage. So I don't know what are your thoughts, you know, regarding this video. Please just leave it at the comment section and then we'll discuss about it.